Welcome to episode 3 of the Progression Podcast. I'm Jeremy, mammal, weekend warrior, and finance bro. With me, Zach, Singapore's second best bike mechanic.
Yeah.
The best being Raphael.
Yep.
Don't think I don't know. He's the one fixing my bike and you're the one hooning around.
I'm the one taking all the credit.
Yeah, exactly. For context, Zach's other mechanic is Raphael. Nice bloke. Good looking bloke.
Good looking, nice, does everything.
Yep. Come down and see him.
Yeah.
We should have him on camera at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So three main topics today. Ivan's bike, which we do not have here because we're taking the B-roll at a different time to the actual podcast. We also have two new and interesting component releases. One being Campy's new 13-speed wireless, and the second, the new Favero pedals.
Yep.
Released right after we recorded the podcast from last week.
Yeah, just about a week ago. Yeah.
So very frustrating for us because we're still editing the video and we already know that that it's outdated. We're recording a week early because Zach, you've got an exciting trip coming up.
This upcoming one is going to be Thailand. You know?
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
They pay me to be their domestic. I fix up their bikes, ride alongside them. If the trip's a little longer, they'll get me a support car and then I'll just follow behind. Make sure that trip all rides are smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually a pretty interesting service because if you're a large enough group, essentially what they're doing is they're funding basically your flights and accommodation.
Yep.
And then also giving you, or they're also paying for the cost of the rental car if they give you a support car.
Yep.
And then also the cost, you have to buy some spares, right?
Yep.
So they'll pay for the cost of spares and then your time, right?
Yep.
Which I think if you have a large enough group and you were thinking about, let's say, going on an organized tour, right? Organized cycling tour, I mean, they tend to be pretty expensive. So if they're happy to plan it themselves, getting you along would be basically one person's cost divided by how many of us on the trip, right?
Yep.
So it's an interesting way of doing it if you're doing a big cycling trip with a big bunch of guys, right?
So I love it as well. So if usually they don't have a support car, I really don't mind riding. I enjoy the ride as well. Yeah. So I just have to, pack a couple more stuff on the bike lah.
And hopefully the rides aren't too hilly.
Yeah.
But then you can't pack a lot of spares, right? If you have a support car, that means you can put in an extra set of wheels, or you have a lot of extra things.
Support car is the ultimate safety plan, the ultimate plan B. But without it, be fine as well. I'll be able to figure something out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. So let's move on to the main topic, which is Ivan's bike. He has a Factor Ostro Vam. We'll put up some B-roll. And it's the first generation, right? So now it's the second generation, which was released
since 2024, I think.
2024. Okay. So, and the Factor Ostro Vam is their, I would say, aero bike out of the range. They have an aero bike. They have a climbing bike, which is the. You have to save me here. Sorry, slipped my mind. If I'm not wrong, it's called the O2. O2 Vam.
O2.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I screwed it up, but slipped my mind. O2 lah, should be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Factor O2 Vam, and they also got a time trial bike and also gravel mountain bikes as well. Right?
Hanzo, they got track bikes as well. The track bikes are just they know how to design a bike.
Okay.
They know how to design a frame.
So I'll do a quick spec sheet read. Frame weight is 830 grams in the size 54, which is pretty respectable actually for how aero the bike looks. We don't know how aero. I mean, they said they've done testing, but it's pretty lightweight actually for how aero it is.
Very well reinforced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 32 millimeter tire clearance, which is again pretty.
That's
modern.
front and back, right? 32 front and back?
I'm not too sure actually. I've just got 32.
Okay.
Presumably then it's front and back, which is pretty, for a bike released in the early 2020s, a pretty modern geometry, or pretty modern tire fit. And it's really, I mean, we know the bike because they sponsor Israel Premier Tech, right? And they were in the Pro Tour, in the Pro Tour a while back, and famously ridden by none other than Chris Froome.
I thought you were going to say Ivan.
Well, Ivan's almost as fast.
Yeah.
No, Ivan's a pretty fast guy.
He's great.
Again, we keep going back to this point. People faster than us.
Not a high bar to clear.
But he's a new father, so I don't know how fast he is.
Congrats, Ivan.
Yeah, good work. Good work to your wife as well. Team effort. I used to ride with him a lot, but I stopped riding with him before he had his kid. Only because they were just way too fast. Like I would, at the end of every ride, I find that I'm just exhausted, and it just wasn't. It got to a point where it just wasn't fun, and my fitness was just not catching up to them at all. So that was pretty rough. A few other things. I think the bike at the time was pretty well reviewed. So generally pretty compliant, pretty nippy. If I'm looking at the reviews, and good power transfer, all the good stuff, right?
Yep.
So all around,
everything that's expected from a pro tour bike. Sorry. Yeah. So.
But it did have some problems, right? So there was some issues with the seat post and all that.
Yeah, that is renowned amongst most mechanics. You just have to clean it real good, put a copious amount of anti-slip, whichever you want to use. Most of the time it's good lah.
But and that's because aero bikes have been around even in the early 2020s. Aero bikes have been around for a while, but the seat posts, there were a lot of bikes. It wasn't the only bike which had issues with the seat posts.
Of course. Yeah.
And I get the sense that it's a problem that's no longer been talked about a lot, presumably because the newer aero bikes, they've figured out how to get aero seat posts properly secured and wedged in. Right?
And also manufacturing tolerance are getting tighter and tighter. Like we said many times before, the Chinese or any other manufacturing in the world is all catching up. So I don't foresee it becoming an issue in the near future anymore. A few frames might still be outstanding with that issue, but I think in the future to come, it shouldn't be an issue anymore. Yeah.
So we've so far talked about an older bike, not really that old, but an older bike, which is the SL5 from last week. We've also talked about the latest Pinarello. Compare this bike to those. Give me a sense for it.
Wow. You always put me in a spot.
Yeah.
Well, I hate comparing bikes. I love bikes and I hate comparing them.
But this question's coming every single time I ask you this question.
How should I say this? It's definitely a lot closer to the Pinarello F. Obviously, right? And in terms of timeline, in terms of design, it's a lot closer to the Pinarello F. But surprisingly, I wouldn't say it's as nippy as the SL5. For obvious reasons, again, wheelbase and geometry. But it is pretty close to the SL5 in terms of handling. So a couple of guys, whether local or overseas, are also using it for crits as well. So it's not a bike where you just regard it as your TMCR killer, or it's not a full-blown enduro bike as well. It's one that you can kind of do most things with it. It has the tire clearance for really light graveling as well.
Ooh, really? Okay.
Right, 32 is more than enough.
Well, you're a braver man than I am. And also, we had a local term, TMCR. Do you want to explain what TMCR is?
Tanah Merah Coastal Road. It's just it's what it says. It's just a coastal road. How long is it? How far?
It's about 15 kilometers. So
one way.
Yeah. So if you're in Singapore and you want to just ride on a flat, Singapore is pretty flat generally, but this is just 15 kilometers of flat,
mostly unobstructed.
Yes, very few traffic lights, very flat. So if you're on your TT bike and you wanted to train, that's probably the best place to train in Singapore.
Yep.
But pretty boring and pretty remote and pretty hot, right? So you have to make some sacrifices for that.
Make your own fun. Get more friends.
That's true. When you have friends, it's a lot more fun because then you're just
good music or something. I don't know.
or just racing each other.
Yeah. Back then when we used to bring new friends to, I'm sure you do this as well. Like maybe you've been brought along or like you brought a new friend to TMC, and then you see that they don't have like earpiece. Then you're like, oh man, you are so screwed for the next 15 km.
Yeah, it does get pretty boring.
Yeah. But anyways, back on to the Factor. I don't know. What else do you have to say about it?
In terms, I mean, so for me, Factor's an interesting brand, right? We talked about the Monzo 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
That was their kind of, I guess you would call it mid-range bike. Yeah. Whereas both the O2 and the Ostro, they're the high-end bikes.
Right.
Purpose built. And the Ostro is definitely pretty aggressive in terms of geometry. And I guess it suits Ivan and his riding style. Yeah. Aggressive and fast.
Okay, so moving on, more parts on this bike that we find interesting is the OSPW, or rather the paint-matched OSPW. So you want to have a little say in this?
Well, we keep looking at the bike.
But it's non-existent.
It's actually not here. So we're doing our best to use our imagination.
We'll be here for you as well.
It's paint matched, so the frame itself is green, and also then did he get it custom painted? Did he get the OSPW custom painted as well?
The OSPW is custom painted for sure. That one's done by us. Okay. The green, the Factor Racing green on the frame is the original colorway.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, if I look at it, it's the color that always comes to mind is the old school, like British green Aston Martins, right? That's the color that they're kind of going for, I would say.
Yep.
So how did you paint this yourself, or did you go to someone who was a painter? Sounds like they're an artist, but someone who actually does the spray painting or whatever it is.
No, we're not that good. Although we do have a bit of creativity, but most of them we just outsource it to our buddy called T, which is together with Gentle Giant Cyclery. Shout out to T, and does a really good job. After sales is also really good. He makes sure everything is prim and proper. He might miss out a couple spots once or twice, but all rectified ASAP. No issues. Yeah. So shout out to T, man. Thank you.
T also did my bike, so thank you very much, T, for doing my bike. I think maybe one day we'll talk about it. And
yeah. But it was a very simple process. You know, he already knew what he wanted. All we had to do was just replicate the job the way he wants it to, and then voila, there you go.
But how would T do it? Because he would see the frame, he would obviously have a sense for what the color is. But does paint always go on the same? Like is you know, so sometimes when we see photos, right, we see a particular color on the screen and changes and all that stuff, but with painting, does the substrate, basically what you're painting on, make a difference, or that's something that T kind of does to make sure that it all matches perfectly? Yeah,
so he's a master at his craft. Regardless whether you're painting on aluminum, steel, carbon, he always makes sure that the priming is done well, it adheres well. He does his job lah.
Okay, good.
Got no complaints. And yeah, so he was the one that kind of figured out that the paint on the Factor is closest, or I would rather say identical to the Aston Martin color that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, it matches well, or like rather it makes sense. Even though we're trying to find the differences, because there are so many shades of green, right? So we're trying to compare and contrast, but one thing that clicked to us, the company was born in the UK, England, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. So that you can kind of guess, like, you know, it should be British.
British racing green.
British,
Okay, good. But OSPWs in general, what is your view?
I love it. It looks damn good.
Yeah.
If you're asking me, does it provide a performance gain? I'm not going to tell you say no, because obviously it does due to how the chain revolves around a slightly larger pulley, lesser drag. Ceramic bearings also do play a big part. I'm not sure if we mentioned this in the previous podcast. We may have. Have we?
You remember us talking about this because we did one entire take, remember? And then we had to scrap it.
Right. Then we had to scrap. Okay.
Yeah, so we did talk about it, but it's never been released. So you can talk about it again.
Okay. So yeah, but we got other topics, or rather deep dive into this, probably in one of the later episodes when we have one on hand, maybe we can like review one. You know. But as of now, what I can tell you is we provide a performance gain, really marginal. You're saving seconds over hours. So if you're not a professional and you want somewhere good to spend your money on and actually feel performance, don't do OSPW.
Yeah,
but
it's a bling factor, right?
Yeah,
Like it looks
cool.
nice.
Yeah, it's super cool. Like you can't pass on OSPW. It makes the bike look so good, no?
Yeah, it does. But I think the only issue is it also depends on how stiff it is as well, right? Because stiffness in that rear derailleur system matters for precise shifting. And given how many we're getting more and more speeds, well, now we've got 13 speeds on road bikes, right? It gets a bit more. It can be a bit more challenging as well, right? So there are some. I wouldn't say. I mean, I have an OSPW. I wouldn't say I've noticed any issues with the shifting, but in theory, it does or it can create some issues. If you're not careful, or it's not set up by Singapore's second best bike mechanic. Okay, so then OSPW, now wheels. Also interesting and expensive. A set of very nice wheels on this bike.
The Princeton's 4550s, right? Yeah, love it. Can't hate it. It looks good. It's expensive.
That's why you can't hate it.
Yeah, exceptional handling. It's light, really one of the king of mountains. It's stiff. It's honestly what anyone could want in a climbing wheel of this era.
Is it really a climbing wheel? Like, it seems pretty. I would say it's. I mean, it's not. It's certainly not super deep. But I would say that it looks a bit more aero to me than climbing. Or is it just so light that actually you can it's almost
it's really light. So it's a good mix of both worlds. Thankfully, not as thin as well to the point where it doesn't look that good. But for any regular rider like us, when we're looking for a climbing wheel, we're not freaks, right? We're not looking for like 22mm box section wheels to cut out as much weight as possible. So we want something that performs well on the mountains and still look decent on your bike. So 4550s has to be the go-to.
Okay.
Or one of the go-tos.
Okay. Now, he's got it configured with which hub?
Yeah, that one is an interesting choice by many because...
So what's the White Industries, right?
Yeah, the White Industries. Because if I'm not wrong, the Tactic hub is just a fair bit more than the White Industry option. So for someone like Ivan to pick out the White Industry hubs, I thought it was a little bit perplexing in the beginning, but it does make a lot of sense as well to pair with the White Industry, especially if you're someone that really doesn't want the headache of maintenance. So that's what the White Industry is there for. It's as good as your training hub. It's not light, but it's built really, really robust. So you're talking about long-lasting clutch systems. The bearings are also, if I gotta check which bearings it is, but it was one of the thicker ones. Yeah. Nothing else to write home about. It was just robust. It gets you point A to point B. It gets you training for the entire year with zero hassle. And then at the end of the day, when you want to service it, you can take it to anyone. It's easy to service. Yeah,
I'm just looking at the hubs which are available on Princeton wheels. The Tactic Racing hubs, 1,275 grams. The White Industry hubs, 1,480 grams. So it's about 200 grams difference.
Yep.
That's actually pretty material.
Yeah.
Well, for the weight saving on one part.
Yep.
But I guess he went for reliability over the extreme weight weenie build.
Yeah.
And it's interesting again on the carbon on the Princeton Carbon Works website, you can choose rim brakes. So last time we were talking about this, right? Like if you still love your rim brake bike and then you've already chewed through the brake track, then you can get a Princeton set of Princeton's, which I think it's the antithesis of the cheap good rim brake wheel set. But if you're looking for a nice premium option, you can go for that.
It's a very expensive consumable.
It is very expensive.
One of the cons of rim brakes, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I remember, if I think back a little bit, I remember I think it was last year, one of the other channels, YouTube channels, one of the other cycling YouTubers, Mapdeck, which and they're a bike shop in the UK, and they do some YouTube content. They managed to interview, I think it was the founder of Princeton.
Oh, nice.
And it was interesting. The guy had a very set view on wheels, and in particular the width of the wheel. Right. So most of the Princeton wheels, you would say, well, and you look at the spec sheet, they say that it's essentially optimized for 28 to 30 millimeter tires, which is now actually kind of narrow, right? Compared to you're laughing at me because you ride a rim brake bike, but for those of us who ride disc brakes, 28 would probably be the minimum that we would ride. So it's a pretty narrow tire width, and he was quite adamant that when pros ride a bike, they have certain preferences. And obviously that they go and they do testing.
Yep.
And between 28 and 30, that's actually the
optimal
for the speeds that they're going at, right? Which is a lot faster than us.
Yep.
And also for the handling and the ride feel, right? I've got pretty thick tires on my bike, and I don't think it's materially slower, but it does feel slow. Like when you ride, it doesn't feel as responsive. If you're hitting a pothole, obviously you prefer wider tires. But if you're just riding along on Singapore's beautiful smooth tarmac, right? You just don't feel much. So you don't get the feeling of the sensation of speed.
Because when it's so thick, it's muted, right? A lot of the stuff are muted. So
yeah. So I think wider is not always better. It's balance.
And it's all about balance.
Balance, and also the speeds that you go at. And when aero starts becoming more important.
Yep.
But the wheel set, essentially, depending on the hub, it's between 3,000 and 4,500 US. So it's a pretty
penny, yeah.
It is a pretty penny.
Yeah.
But it's probably not a wheel set I go for, because I definitely look at some of the ones coming out of China.
Yeah, as mentioned from the past few podcasts as well, right? They're getting good.
But definitely a flex, and the way they paint it and the way it looks, it's just it's
premium. It's
premium, beautiful. Yeah. Congratulations, Ivan, on your beautiful wheel set.
It's paired together with a really good tire, in my opinion, as well. The Pro Corsa. A lot of the Pro Tour riders use it. Pro Corsas. Have you ridden one of those?
You've just installed a set on mine, right?
Oh, yes. Oh my God, I totally forgot. Yeah, so we'll wait for your review on, for tomorrow. We're riding tomorrow morning, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll wait for a review then.
But they're cotton tires, right?
I love it. Lightweight. It's what most riders could want out of a race tire. Puncture protection, obviously, it's you don't have to say, but still pretty decent. Our roads aren't that littered, so I love those tires, man. Good choice.
But unfortunately, the newer iteration, they only come up to 30, right? The older iteration of the Corsa Pros come up to, and I just noticed you're wearing the t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
You're wearing the t-shirt
straight after work. This is dedication for you guys.
But so the previous generation went up to 32. The current generation is only 30, which is a bit of a shame. For me, because my wheels are extremely wide. And I think 30s might be a bit problematic because the internal width is actually 30. So so technically they would fit, but probably not very well. So
not ideal.
Victoria, if you're listening, 32s on your new cottons.
And just so happened their HQ is in Thailand, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, we should.
Well, you go next week, right?
Just,
hey, 32, please.
Okay, good. Next topic.
All right, next up, something that I am a little more excited about than Jeremy is, which is this year's Pro Peloton Most Italian Bike, which is by De Rosa, for the Bardiani CSF. Yeah, Bardiani CSF team. They have this really wild paint job on their De Rosa 70 Pro Tour. I don't know if, we'll link up like the B-roll here, you guys can see. So beautiful cyan all around. Cyan, turquoise, thereabouts. You know, the Rosa plastered all over the frame. And the rear chainstay, my goodness, look at that raw carbon weave. Just lovely. But yeah, regarded as the most Italian bike on this year's Pro Tour, and coincidentally paired together with, or uncoincidentally, you know, paired together with Campagnolo's 13-speed. So we'll link more B-roll. You check it out, Bora Ultra WTO wheel set.
It's certainly a very interesting design.
Yeah.
The paint job looks beautiful. But what about the base bike? What is the is it an all-round bike? Is it a aero bike? Where does it fall into the Rosa range?
I would have to look into the. Honestly, I haven't been looking at the Rosas for a long while. They haven't been as competitive as the rest of the brands, but the Rosa hasn't really had a full-blown aero bike for a while now, I think. So most of them are very traditional round tubing or round-ish tubing. You know, nothing too sharp, nothing crazy. It's just a traditional geometry with traditional tubings. So I don't have much to write home about, except, you know, like the 2024s or like the 2020 onwards, they start to get a little more aerodynamic on like the seat post area, and like they start reinforcing the BBs a little more so that it's stiffer. But I guess the special one about the De Rosa 70, it was designed by Pininfarina by Ferrari. Sorry, not Ferrari, but Pininfarina does a couple of Ferraris, one of the more iconic ones being like the 458. So can see it here. So he designs Ferraris, and now he does for De Rosa as well. So I guess that is one of the most exciting points for me, because I really want a Ferrari, right? Look at that. So I could buy a De Rosa and then pretend I own a Ferrari.
Or you can just go live in Malaysia and you might be able to afford a Ferrari.
I might.
For those of you who are not in Singapore, Singapore cars are really expensive because of just the insane amount of taxes that you kind of have to pay to get a car. And so owning a Ferrari, I mean, even in other countries, owning a Ferrari is...
that's what I was about to say. 已经很贵了. It's damn expensive already.
Yes, it's already out of the range of the budget of most people. But in Singapore, the prices are just astronomical. But about the brand De Rosa, right? They're a very long and storied Italian brand.
They have a long history. Yeah.
But they just haven't been doing as well as their I guess, two biggest competitors, being Colnago and Pinarello.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Colnago, I know they've had an investment from a private equity fund. So obviously they have the I say marketing machine, but obviously he is also an amazing cyclist. Tadej
Pogacar.
Yes.
Right.
And so obviously it's very easy to remember Colnago's and Pinarello's. Obviously they've been sponsoring what was Sky.
One of their more successful marketing campaigns with Sky. Yeah.
Yeah, and poor De Rosa kind of been forgotten about a little bit,
but not this year. They decided to make a stand this year with that custom paint job.
Yes, but not a world tour team, right? It's a pro team, but not world tour.
Yeah. If I'm not wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Which leads nicely into our next point, which is the campy 13-speed wireless release. So let me do a quick spec sheet read. This was released last week. It is the world's first 13-speed 2x road group set, right? So they're building off some of the components from the 1x gravel group set.
Yep.
What's new? The shifters, which is...
I mean... Can you say it's new? Like the everything is still the same. You got that little quirky thumb shifter there. Like it's all still pretty much the same ergonomics.
Well, that's the best part about it, right? Or for people who are campy fans who were very disappointed with the last iteration, which was released only 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Having that thumb shifter back is probably going to be it'll be a positive for them. So new shifters, new derailleurs. So again, the 12-speed wireless that they released, very big and bulky derailleurs, which were kind of, I guess they didn't have enough time to design them to be smaller and sleeker. So new derailleurs, and also significantly cheaper. Right, so basically, if you look at the pricing, it is in line with Red and Dura-Ace. So if you get the power meter with Red and Dura-Ace, that is the same price as the new 13-speed wireless from Campy without a power meter. With a power meter, you add an extra basically 1,000 euros / USD. So it's the top of the line group set, and apparently it is the lightest. Okay, now they claim it is the lightest, but I think it really does depend on the chainring size as well as the cassette that you choose. Still, it's still got 2 different batteries because SRAM had patented the single battery. So it's got 2 different batteries. But again, they're also smaller and sleeker, but still backward compatible with the older version. And what appears to be a very wide range of cassette and chainring options. So the first iteration is the road group set, but they will have gravel as well. They have one by road, they'll have one by gravel. And I think they will have a few other iterations which are coming in September. Okay, but if we, to me, the one of the more interesting parts is that if you look at the cassette options, so for Shimano it's 11 to something, right? For SRAM it's 10 to something. For Campy they have both, so they have 2 cassettes. Yeah. They have 2 cassettes. One is 1029, the other is 1033. Then they've got 2 other cassettes starting with 11, so 1132 and 1136. Okay. And chainring options which range from 4529 to 5539.
That's a lot of good options.
Yes.
Sure, I just want to circle back to one part because it just kind of crossed my mind because they claimed that they are the lightest, but they are also the first 13-speed electronic group set. So obviously they're the lightest, right? Like, are they comparing it to the 12-speed Reds or?
They are comparing to the 12. Well, basically the lightest top of the line. Well, the lightest electronic group set.
Okay.
Lightest electronic disc group set.
That's one hell of a claim, man. Because the Reds are already pretty decent. A lot of them are using for their weenie builds. So I don't know about lightest, man. We have to double check. We have to get a set in or something to do. Yeah.
Is there a Campy distributor in Singapore?
Campy is who? I also forgot earlier. I haven't dealt with Campy in such a long time. No one's requesting for Campy.
Yeah. It's a real shame, right? I mean, more competition is always good. Good for the consumer. Right? And I guess it's a bit of a stretch for Campy because they've been in the premium segment, but at least
I wouldn't even say premium, bro. They're more artisanal at that point in time.
Yeah, I think so. Well, now that the pricing is basically in line with the others, right? Yes, you do. If you want a power meter, then, and this is interesting. It's a good link to the next topic. But if you want a power meter, then yes, you'll probably have to get the pedal-based power meters, or you pay extra $1,000 for their power meter. Yep.
But before we move on, I just want to get your opinion because I've dealt with plenty of the early Campys, like even before they were like. When they were 8-9 speed, they were already doing that thumb shifter thing, and they have stuck their ground till today, which is you're talking about a whole 25 years of like thumb shifters. You probably haven't ridden one, right? But what are your thoughts? Ergonomically.
So if I'm holding so basically if you're on the
hoods, it's like that.
Yeah. So you could if you're on and then
if you're sprinting, you have to this.
I see. I've never tried it. Would be interesting to try one.
Yeah, Campy, please sponsor.
Well,
We're asking for too much really.
Or loan us a set for us to for us to review. Or the next bike build that I do, we can get campy on.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we can find one of the clients that may have a Campy group set. You can just ask.
Well, I mean, I would want the latest and greatest. Well, at least, I would want to try the ergonomics. And then if it kind of works, then I wouldn't mind putting that.
We will
on.
do a review on one in the near future.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all right. So let me give you my thoughts because everyone, or not everyone, but like most people in the world have already divided Shimano and SRAM and Campy. Obviously, Campy being the artisanal one, it's one that you would take it, go plate it, and then hang it up at home. They're one of those things. So it's surprising that they've released the 13 speed right now and starting to get into competition again with especially with the pricing. I'm still curious as to how it performs, so we can only tell after we receive it. But in terms of ergonomics, if it remains the same, I still feel that it's a little odd because you have your thumb, like you can't fully grip onto the bars and shift at the same time. Like, you could still use 4 fingers and then 1 finger to shift for both SRAM and Shimano, but you could never do that with a Campy. Or if there's a style of ergonomics or a style to hold it, I don't know. But from how I use it, it's just weird, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing about electronic group sets is that you can have buttons anywhere, right? So so they've got 2 buttons at the front. So on top of the hoods, there's on the inside there's 2
The
buttons.
little blips, right?
Little blips, which I believe is pretty similar to where SRAM has them. And then of course
Shimano, is it? Shimano, Shimano has the one on top.
on top. This is on the inside.
Oh, the inside one, yeah.
Inside, and then your thumb shifters and your obviously your
Brake levers, yeah.
But I mean, if someone's used to Campy, if someone really loves Campy, and the ergonomics of Campy, well, obviously the last generation would have been hugely disappointing for them, and this generation is kind of back to their roots in what made them special and original, right?
Yep.
The other interesting thing is that the hoods themselves actually tilt in by 10%.
Yes.
So and it's obviously they've read the UCI rules and made sure that it's within the limits, but at least if you kind of wanted to make sure you had that, so it's designed so that you put them on straight, but the hoods come up. So then you have a bit of and it is actually more ergonomic to have your hood ever so slightly tilted, right?
I see them putting in the effort. I just am really curious to try one out. So yeah, we'll work on it in the future.
Yeah. Favero released a new set of power meter pedals. This is SPD SL, so Shimano compatible only. And it's
a bit of a bad timing, right?
Well, bad timing because they dropped this. Well, they had all these reviewers lined up, right, under embargo, and I think a day or two after we recorded our last podcast, they released these. Okay, so from the road perspective, originally they had the Asiomas, right, which were, and of course I keep talking about this, like I keep saying this, but they were the gold standard. Right? So they're the pedals with the pods. They originally came out with Look Kyo compatible cleats.
Yep.
And then they also released basically a set of pods and spindles so that you can put on different pedal bodies.
Yep.
So
that's genius. I love that. Yeah.
So then anyone who prefers the Shimano system could use them. And then after they released those, they released a new set of power meters, which were SPD, so for mountain bikers, where they removed the pod, or they put all the electronics into the spindle. And those were exceptionally well reviewed. Well, actually, both the road ones and the new mountain bike ones were exceptionally well reviewed. So when they released the road version of these, it's, I mean, there's plenty of reviews on them. Every single major news outlet did one. GP Llama also did one. Peak Talk, who is an engineer, bit more of an indie channel. He's a bit more of a, well, actually both GP Llama and Peak Talk, they're very, very straightforward in their criticisms and also their praise.
We praised them really well in the previous episode, so you guys can just hop on back to that and then check them out. But great guys. Very, very well detailed reviews.
Yes.
Yep.
And it's actually not a surprise that these are great pedals because they did the mountain bike version. It's essentially the mountain bike versions with a body swap,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So all the electronics are the same. They were reviewed very well before, and arguably mountain biking is a lot more of a challenging environment for power meters, right? So if you got the mountain bike ones right, and then you know, I think it's not that much of a challenge. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. I mean, power meters are very challenging.
No, I get what you mean.
correctly.
Yeah.
But once you had the more difficult part of it done, then I think this one would be would have been easier. And yes, no surprise. And actually, you really don't need to go and watch the reviews. You actually don't need to go and read the reviews, because every single person says that they are the absolute gold standard. They're rated within 1%. They perform within 1%.
Yep.
They compare well to other power meters or reliable power meters on smart trainers and also on
Different kind of cranks,
and
setups.
Yep.
They just perform well.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's almost like there's no, if you're looking to make a power meter, there's almost no point, right? Because
There's barely any room for improvement.
Yeah,
which is kind of my question as to why they would. I mean, apart from knocking down the weight, right? Like this new design, do you see anything else special rather than just the weight?
I mean, it's light. It looks nice, I think, because it doesn't have the pod. So if you're in the market for a power meter, unless you have a very specific pedal you want to use, so either time or speed plays, then I think there's no point in getting anything else except for the price. Okay, still pretty expensive. It's about $1,000 for the two-sided version, but yeah, I mean it's no longer a market or concern for. It's no longer a market which anyone else should be getting into.
Yeah,
and it's
right.
no longer a concern for the consumer to get good, reliable power meters. This is it.
I mean, there is a couple of the Chinese guys that are coming. Majin, right? Yeah, they're trying to compete.
Yeah. So actually, you had a chance to look at the Majin power meter.
Yeah, I had a look at that a while back. I thought it was pretty decently designed. You know, they could I still see areas where they can cut down a little more on weight and stuff like this. But obviously, with the kind of price tag, you can't expect the world from them, lah. But like as what you were saying, if you want to get into the power meter market and compete with what is the gold standard or what should be the baseline for a lot of power meters out there for accurate readings, right? You have a lot to catch up with.
Yeah,
a lot to catch up.
But I mean, the good thing about Majin is that they do have smart trainers, so they have some experience in making power meters.
Yep.
Their pedals obviously are, they're mimicking. Sorry, maybe not mimicking, but they took some design inspiration from the older Faveros. What we understand, you did a bit of a teardown.
Yep.
Do you think they'll be easy to service?
Very simple design. Very simple. Love it. Like zero complaints. As a mechanic, zero complaints.
Okay.
Easy.
So Favero, you can get replacement pedal bodies, right? For Majin, I think at this point we don't know whether or not you can get replacement pedal bodies. We know that what the bearings are, so you can easily get those replaced, and that's probably the one that will need to be replaced the most.
The most, yeah.
But for half the price, I guess it depends on the test results as well. I'm pretty sure Majin has been in contact with a few of these other YouTubers and review websites.
Hopefully GP Llama.
GP Llama, and so then we can get some real life performance results. And
actually, you're gonna I'm gonna put it on for you later, no? So tomorrow you can ride it. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
The only problem let us know how it goes.
Yeah. I mean, the only problem is I have I have a reliable but inaccurate power meter, right? In the Sigai crank-based power
No,
meters.
it's reliable, no?
It's reliable, but it's always off by a percentage. So if you...
Correct, then that's the one where you just have to... Because it's consistently...
Incorrect. But I don't know how incorrect... I've never actually bothered, right? Because for me, it's about looking at my performance compared to the week before, right? So if it's consistently accurate, I had never actually gone and tested it.
I get what you mean.
So I mean, I'll put them on and I'll try them tomorrow.
Congratulations, you are now a reviewer.
and just I mean I can do some comparisons, and we can show you the results next week. But again, to be clear, I'm not a proper. First of all, my power meter is not accurate. Second of all, I'm not a proper real reviewer. We're very, very fortunate actually that there are so many great content creators out there, and we're just two talking heads who know very little, but we're able to rely on them and and get all the great testing done, right?
Yeah. All right. I mean, like, what else is there to say? You know,
we're done. Like power meters, done. Unless you want time pedals and time. So time doesn't actually have power meter pedals. So if you're into time pedals, and they're great pedals actually. They're
wow, the designs, man.
And they're super light and very easy to clip in and clip out. So I think for newbies, they're actually quite a good pedal system. I think also now owned by SRAM. So they'll be getting broader distribution, but unfortunately there's no pedal power meters, so you'll have to get a crank-based one. And then what else? If you want speed plays, well, they have a power meter pedal. So then that's another option.
Yep.
And then beyond that, I don't really see any other reason. I mean, when I recall when people initially talked about power meter pedals, the concern was that it's kind of a bit more exposed than your crankset, right? So the concern was if you crashed, or it was basically more open to the elements, all that stuff. But look, people have had the older version of the Faveros for a long time. They've never had an issue. Pedal bodies are easy to get. Replacement parts are easy to get. It's from a great company. So we're done.
That's that.
Yeah. Okay, a bit of a shorter podcast today because Zach's got to run off. Thank you very much for coming in late to
no problem
to do the podcast with us.
See you tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're riding tomorrow morning, and then you're flying off.
Yep.
Everyone who's watching this, please like and subscribe if you like our content. And we'll be trying to get this. We're doing this on YouTube, but we are figuring out a way to quickly and easily get this onto other platforms where probably be audio only. So I think we need to start thinking about how we talk and do things to make sure that for audio listeners it makes sense as well.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Ciao.